if it's been season after season that I've watched it, it's been great. Don't fuck it up now, please. All right? There's not that much in the way of intellectual television on there. And I know this is a fictional crime, fictional crime drama. But I still like the way it's written. But DiNozzo anymore is almost like he's lost that happy-go-lucky type thing. But I think that's part of the evolution of his character, especially now that Ziva's gone. Because of all the characters on that show, I think DiNozzo has matured the most. But anyway, I just hope that this show is not lining itself up to jump the shark. Well, let's see. NCIS, not this program. This show jumped the shark from day one, so that way you wouldn't be disappointed. Speaking of which, though, I went back and I listened to the pilot episode of this program. Man, what the hell was I on? I sounded like a hyperactive tobacco auctioneer. But I'll save that for another time. Anyway, let's see what's getting onto my mind today. The war on the holidays. Yeah, I'm going to bring it up one more thing. Something that occurred to me a little bit ago. There's a news segment I saw last night or something. And it's something that's bugged a lot of people over the years. And I will tell you where I would stand on it, probably no big surprise. And that is when you wish someone happy holidays. And frankly, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with Merry Christmas. But I think happy holidays is more appropriate. And you're going to say, well, you're an atheist and all blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, that's part of it. But we're also in a pluralistic society, in a world in which Christianity is not the only game in town. And part of the problem I have with all religions, regardless of your stance, is that your religion is more important than anyone else's. And part of the problem I have with religion in general is that it puts people on a pedestal of superiority. That's just the way I see it. Okay? Now, don't go delete me or send me hate mail, say I'm going to hell. I already know I'm going to hell a long time ago. I've heard that numerous times. So, but how can you respect someone else's right to believe if I can't respect your right? Let me rephrase that. How can they respect your right if you don't respect their right? Because it is not mandatory in this country, I don't care what your position is, it's not mandatory that I accept Christianity. And that's part of the problem I have with people who are saying, well, this country is founded on Christianity. No, the colonies were founded on Christianity. The United States was founded on the separation of church and state. Let me reiterate that. The colonies, the New England colonies, the French colonies, the Spanish colonies, were founded on religion. But the United States of America was founded on the separation of church and state. Therefore, Christianity should never have been infiltrating higher levels of government so intrusively. And now you have people out there that feel like they're being persecuted because I'm requesting that you say Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas. If you want to wish me Merry Christmas in private, I got no problem with that. Christmas is one of my favorite holidays. I love the ambiance of it. I love the decorations. I love the smells, the memories. I just don't buy into the supernatural aspects of it. Okay? I just wanted to get that off my chest. But I'm sure I'll be bringing it up more and more as we get closer to Christmas time. For people that are supposedly so happy and so benevolent with God and so forth in Christianity, there's sure a lot of uptight ones out there. But, as I said, we'll save that for another day. Getting on with what's on my mind in terms of politics and news. President Obama is sticking to healthcare.gov, the timeline. And GOP critics are not helping the situation. Now, the president said yesterday that the embattled federal health care reform website was still on track to work for a majority of users by the end of November, while acknowledging that the site's problems should have been avoided entirely. Well, no shit, Sherlock. But, Mr. President, you've said it on the record that it would be free and available for all, these websites. So, even if one person is screwed out of the system, you broke your promise. Now, I realize that politicians make promises all the time and break a majority of them, especially during campaigns. But when you promise us something from law and you don't deliver, shame on you, Mr. President. Shame, 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 shame. Tuesday's briefings from the administration brought a mix of positive and negative news for the fate of healthcare reform and its website, healthcare.gov. During an earlier hearing of the day, Henry Cho, the Chief Information Officer at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the CMS, testified that 30 to 40% of the IT system for the payment portion of the website still needed to be built. 30 to 40%. I don't know about you, but that sounds rather significant to me. Well, officials later stressed that they would be able to meet the deadline for building those systems, though that deadline was placed at mid-January. Yeah, let's keep placing it further down the road. We can't quite get it done by November. How about December? Let's try mid-January. We can do it by then. On a more positive front, CMS said in a conference call on Tuesday that it had repaired two-thirds of the high-priority bugs that have been plaguing the transaction forms and enrollment processes. Still, with just 11 days left till the end of the month, now 10 days, it is unclear if the federal website would be accessible for enough consumers to make the exchanges functional. Speaking to Gerald Saib, or Saib of the Wall Street Journal, the president said that he and his administration underestimated the complexities of building out a website that would work the way it should. He also once again blamed the federal government's procurement process. We should blow up how we procure it for IT, he said at one point. The way federal government does procurement, and IT is just generally not very efficient. The president also took a swipe at his critics on the other side of the aisle, arguing that lockstep Republicans' opposition to the law had undermined its ability to be implemented properly. His administration, he said, should have anticipated that would have created a rockier rollout, adding that one side of Capitol Hill is invested in failure. While the line was met with some guffaws among Republicans on Twitter, who wondered whether the contractors hired by the administration to build the website had been partisan hacks. Well, the president stuck with the theme through his entire interview, however, making light of the idea that he was a socialist. You got to meet real socialists. You'll have a real sense of what a socialist is, insisting that the differences between the two parties was dramatically overstated, and arguing that he could have the healthcare site fixed sooner if Republicans would be more constructive. One more thing, he said, we're going to have to remarket, rebrand, and that will be challenging in this political environment. And I agree with that. In that it will be difficult to rebrand this, because even many of his supporters, like yours truly, are very, very disappointed, very upset with this whole process, because it has been a clusterfuck, to say the least. And one more thing that was said in there. Republicans are pointing out the differences between the two major political parties, and there are fundamental differences. But when it comes right down to the core, they're more alike than unalike. There's very little disparity, especially in how much money is raised and how money is raised. Because you don't see the president out there campaigning for the Democrats as much now as you did in previous years when he should have been doing his job. I'm not saying he wasn't doing his job, because he has advisors around him all the time, but for public appearances, it did not look good at all. Alrighty. God, I sound like Froggy this morning. Anyway, on to the next topic, and a sad story out of Virginia. Of course, by now you've heard about the state senator that was stabbed and his son dead from a gunshot wound. Tragedy to be sure, but for many parents of children struggling with mental illness, a wrenching experience in itself. It can be a truly chilling scenario. Virginia State Police said yesterday that Senator Cray Deeds was stabbed after an altercation with his 24-year-old son, Austin Gus Reeds. Excuse me. Try that again. Austin Gus Deeds. The younger man shot himself, authorities said. Austin Deeds withdrew from the College of William & Mary last month after being enrolled off and on since 2007. That's according to a statement from the school. The Richmond Times-Dispatch reported yesterday that he had received a mental health evaluation under an emergency custody order on Monday, but was released because no psychiatric bed could be found in the area. What the fuck? This man's life was in jeopardy. Oh, we can't find a bed. I'm sorry. And I realize that it's up to individuals to take care of themselves. But this should not have happened. This should not have happened at all. The vast majority of young adults with mental health issues do not become violent, although young adulthood is typically when symptoms of mental illness, including schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, surface, experts say. However, parents and others can be on the lookout for warning signs of violence. It can be difficult to predict. That's according to Daniel Davis, a forensic psychologist in private practice in Columbus, Ohio. But over the past 20 years, perhaps especially the past 10, we've gotten a lot better at being able to pick up what would be risk factors for aggressive and violent behavior in youth. Some of those red flags include increased anger and suicidal thoughts. A young adult might be increasingly angry or talk of suicide, making statements such as the world would be better off without him, or that his life doesn't matter. They may develop an increasing fascination with violence or aggression and may show contempt for others. The other sign to look for is moodiness, depression, and substance abuse. Adults may isolate themselves and withdraw from friends and peers. Their school or work performance may decline, and they may become paranoid. They may begin abusing alcohol or drugs, or their use may increase. A sign of a psychotic disorder may be the development of seemingly odd interests and beliefs in UFOs, for instance, or predicting the future. According to Dr. Charles Risen, CNN mental health expert, it is not necessarily predictive of aggression, but these are all things that should not be ignored and should be responded to. Physical changes. A person may lose sleep because of brain chemistry changes. That's according to Dennis Embry, president and senior scientist at the Paxos Institute in Tucson, told CNN 2 years ago. In the case of psychosis, their appearance may actually change and become stranger and disturbing. Any of these factors are more concerning, said Davis, if a person has a history of aggressive behavior or substance abuse, and if they have access to weapons. And what to do? Well, there is some hope. Parents of friends can attempt to discuss problems or symptoms matter-of-factly with a young adult. If they're unwilling to seek help, consult a mental health professional yourself to see if they have some suggestions or guidelines for actions you can take. Reach out to mental health centers or your primary care doctor. If the child is in college, consult the college's counseling center. Groups like the National Alliance on Mental Illness may be able to provide some referrals. Although state laws vary and beds are scarce, as seen in Dean's case, people can usually be hospitalized against their will if there is clear evidence that they intend to commit violence. So just some things to think about as we roll on this Wednesday. Well, we're going to step aside for a few seconds, take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll have more first